We've got some fast breaking news, folks. Look at this. The tie is a total mess. We've got a verdict inside the courtroom. Do we have Matt Johnson on the line, or is he going inside the courtroom? He's going in the courtroom. Do we have a video feed of what's happening inside? There it is. Do we have audio from inside the courtroom? We do have audio. She's standing. That tells me they're waiting for either the judge or the jury to enter the courtroom.
The jury have returned. And who is the foreperson?
Me, Your Honor.
Please stand. Okay. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes.
Is it unanimous?
Yes.
Please hand the verdict forms to Madam Bailiff. Thank you. All right, after having reviewed both verdict forms, the court finds that there are no errors or omissions in the filling out of the verdict forms. Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 5th Judicial Circuit of the State of Florida in and for Lake County, the State of Florida versus Laurie Shaver, case number 2020 CF 2361. Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder. Was the defendant in actual possession of a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge a firearm? Yes. Did the discharge cause great bodily harm? Yes. So say we all, dated this 13th day of September. Verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2 of the charge. The defendant is not guilty. So say we all, dated this 13th.
Does counsel for either the state or the defendant wish to have the jury polled?
Defense does, Judge.
All right, Madam Clerk, please poll each juror. Consideration of this case, I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room, except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from your attorneys, or elsewhere. From the attorneys or elsewhere, it will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. Thank you so much for your time and attention and patience this week. Our system of justice would not work without good people such as yourselves. You are excused from further jury service. Thank you and have a nice night.
Laurie Shaver, now a convicted murderer. Remember, she's been out on bond the whole time. She's been out, she's been free. Her life has changed dramatically. Guilty of second degree.
Judge, at this time we move, obviously, for or attendance motion for supersedious bond. Renew our motion for judgment of acquittal, notwithstanding the verdict. All previous grounds stated and asserted.
The motion for supersedious bond is denied, and the motion for judgment of acquittal is respectfully denied. Okay.
Yes.
Is your client, is Ms. Shaver entitled to a PSI? Okay. All right, Ms. Shaver, please stand. Based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of the offense of murder in the second degree with a firearm, as charged in the information filed against you in criminal case number 20 CF 2361, this court does hereby adjudicate you guilty of that offense and remand you to the custody of the sheriff pending receipt by the court of a pre-sentence investigation report by the Florida Parole and Probation Commission. You will be remanded now to the Lake County Jail. Let's set a sentencing date, Madam Clerk. What's 60 days out?
Not sure if she expected this or not,
Okay.
but it becomes
I don't know.
very real very quickly. And remember, she has not been in custody. Most murder defendants are in custody. So they're taking her away right now. Here come the cuffs.
All right, November 25th, at what time? 9?
Yes, sir.
9 o'clock. November 25th at 9 a.m. will be sentencing, tentatively, pending the receipt of the PSI.
So now her teenage daughter, who doesn't have a
Is there
father.
anything further from the defense?
Yes, sir.
Anything further from the state?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Has a mother in prison. It's second degree. Second degree with a firearm, which makes it much, much more serious down in Florida. It goes from up to 30 years to a minimum of 25 years, 16 3/4 without parole, but the judge has some discretion to add on to that as well. So there's a chance she doesn't get out. There's a chance. But there she is being processed. Everything that they have to do to take someone into custody, because she's been walking in and out of that courtroom, talking to our own Matt Johnson. And that has ended. They can talk about appeals, all of that. This is a dramatic moment, much more so for this defendant. Remember, her husband went missing. No one was looking for him. Then they found the body. Then they had to charge her. This took years to get to this point, and she's been free to live her life. She got remarried. But you can see from the look on her face, I don't know if she's prepared, not prepared for the moment. I mean, you have to understand it's a possibility, especially if you did it. And what this jury said, which was significant for the sentencing in November, is that she is the one with the gun in her hand. She is the one who fired that weapon. So they didn't believe her daughter. They didn't believe her. And this is the processing process taking place right now. They do it right in the courtroom after a conviction. And from here she'll start in the jail. She'll stay in the jail likely until sentencing, and then once the sentence comes down, then they'll figure out, the Department of Corrections, which facility she should be in. As I recall, the state of Florida's women's facility, at least one of them is very close to where she is right now. I've been there, done stories there. So, wow. Laurie Shaver, now a convicted murderer. Our think tank is with us, Paulette Lofton, Laurie Murray, and Philip Dubé. Laurie, are they ever prepared for this?
I don't see how they could be. I think that, deep in your heart, every defendant thinks that they're going to be found not guilty. And I think that they go in with their great expectations of their lawyers and they praise all through the trial. And then when you're found guilty, they will flip on you very fast. But I don't think that she could ever be prepared for a night in jail, much less prison.
Paulette, watching this scene for her, this is someone who was, as I've said, she was out on bond the whole time. Unusual for a murder case. So this is a wake-up call. This is the first day, perhaps, of the rest of your life.
Absolutely. She should consider herself extremely lucky because it is very uncommon for someone to be on bond while charged with second-degree murder. So, I have always, in conversations with defendants during and after trial, I think, they always anticipate there could be the worst situation, which would be them going into custody. But I think, I do think that when they testify, they really psych themselves up and believe their own story so that when they hear the guilty verdict, maybe not completely surprising, but shocking, knowing that now she's going into custody.
All right. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us on the phone from inside the courthouse where all this just happened. Matt, what can you tell us?
I can tell you that this is not what she had planned at all. She broke down. She was shaking. She was shaking her head as her attorneys were trying to comfort her. Her family, her husband was in the gallery, and he was being comforted by friends. He's in some sort of a men's group. You heard about that when he took the stand. He was in shock and disbelief. He looked like he was crying when I just left the courthouse moments ago with him. We've all been ushered out of the courthouse. It's after hours. She's now in custody. Courthouse is closed. And it was really an awkward feeling to just wait for this verdict. Anytime there was any movement, anytime they brought in pizzas for the staff, everyone would jump up because it was the sheriff's deputies. And we thought that we had a verdict long ago, but we didn't. And all of the parties were actually having to hang out together. And you just talked about how Laurie Shaver had been out on bond ever since her arrest. Well, she was seated with her husband, Travis Filmer, and with her daughter as well, who had testified. And they were just a couple feet away from the victim's family who were huddled over there. And then you have all of the media that were waiting late into the night here outside of Orlando in Florida, waiting for this verdict. This hallway was huge. It was very awkward. But in that courtroom, you could hear a pin drop, and there was high emotions. The family members, they were holding each other. They were smiling when the verdict was read. And, of course, as I just described, Laurie Shaver in disbelief along with her family.
All right, Matt Johnson at the courthouse tonight. We've got more coverage coming up, but the headline is the headline. Laurie Shaver guilty of second-degree murder. And in this case, with the use of a firearm. They believe she fired the fatal shot, which is going to make her time in prison much, much longer. We'll be back.
In the Circuit Court of the 5th Judicial Circuit of the State of Florida in and for Lake County, the State of Florida versus Laurie Shaver, case number 2020 CF 2361. Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of second-degree murder. Was the defendant in actual possession of a firearm? Yes. Did the defendant discharge a firearm? Yes. Did the discharge cause great bodily harm? Yes. So say we all, dated this 13th day of September. Verdict as to count 2.
Laurie Shaver found guilty of second-degree murder with the use of a weapon. This, I don't know if she was expecting this. It was, does any defendant expect it? But just the way she was carrying herself. And think about being free for all those years. Before being arrested, before they found the body, then before being arrested, and then after being arrested, you're still free. You're living your life. You're going out to dinner. You're going on vacation. You're watching television. You're listening to your music. You're hanging out with your family. You're with your husband. That was her life until this moment that she's now getting cuffed and could potentially die behind bars. Sentencing's coming up in November. And to emphasize the contrast here, I want to show you what's been happening just during the course of this trial, okay? Just during the course of this trial with Laurie Shaver, inside and outside of the courthouse. And as you watch this thing, do you think she was expecting to be locked up at the end of all of this?
Anything you want to say?
No comment.
Yeah, have you given thought to taking the stand? I know that it's something that you guys are going to be discussing. I know that it's been a long time in the coming to get to this point.
Still haven't decided. I would love to be able to speak my story, but they're going to prevent things that I can say. So I don't know that trial is the right time.
We were sitting there, and I could not yell anymore.
We heard
He's
from...
just sitting in the chair as he's smashing my face into the porch.
Laurie, hi.
No comment right now, thank you.
How do you feel after today's testimony on the stand?
Comment right now. Jeff's on the other side.
Is there anything more that you wanted to say?
Not right now.
You know, we really weren't going to talk the child out of it, but she was going to live, you know, a guilty feeling if she didn't get her story out.
He pushed her onto the ground, and he started kicking her in the stomach and in the back. And then he took his other foot, and he put it on the side of her face. And she was screaming, and he was like saying there's not going to be another time.
I know you appeared a little bit emotional when your daughter was speaking on your behalf. That must have been tough for you and the family. Are you prepared for the jury to make their decision?
I am.
How do you think that's going to go? All right, thank you.
Some of her last moments of freedom captured by Matt Johnson. There she is, locked up. Think Tank still with us, Paulette Lofton, Laurie Murray, Philip Dubé. Philip, my reading of the statute is that the judge has a lot of discretion here in what the sentence can be. A minimum 16 3/4 years without the possibility of parole, 25-year minimum sentence, but because of the use of the firearm, this is a different ballgame. Second-degree murder down there is a first-degree felony.
That's correct. She's looking at a minimum of 16 3/4 years to life. And it's up to the judge to decide whether or not the gun will run concurrent. But the bottom line is she will not be eligible for a parole hearing for at least 16 3/4 years. Now, I will say, though, that she's been at liberty for 9 years, so she's had the benefit of being free all this time. So it's really kind of a tragedy, if you will. I have a philosophy, Vinny, and I don't know if the think tank agrees. I believe that less is more in putting on a defense. I truly believe that had she not have testified, there would have been no need to call the former boyfriend to the stand, and the reasonable doubt could have hinged on the credibility of Isabel, the daughter, the young child. And if all you had was the child taking the stand explaining what happened, without Laurie on the stand to be impeached every which way, and without the ex-boyfriend denying being involved in any way, shape, or form, I think she had a shot at a minimum of a deadlocked jury. But this jury clearly rejected Isabel's testimony, they rejected Laurie's testimony, and they accepted Jeremy's testimony. And this is the outcome.
Yeah, to me, Laurie, it seems like the truth came out inside the courtroom.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You know, this one was a little bit baffling for me because I didn't buy the daughter's story, and I wanted to, but she had so many defenses here. She could, you know, she had the other boyfriend. She had a lot of reasonable doubt. And the thing about this is even if they didn't completely buy it, sure, she assumed, as her lawyers would probably tell her, that at least it would give them something to hang their hat on for doubt. But I think it's important to note that they had 6 jurors here, not 12. That's a difficult case to make in front of 6 jurors and not 12.
Yeah, well, I think it's easier for 6 to agree one way or the other, and here they agreed, you know, according to what prosecutors argued and what it seemed all the common sense arguments Paulette led to. It was, I mean, I don't think they liked her either. There was nothing likable about her that was presented inside the courtroom.
No, I would agree. And I agree with the statements that were just made. I think really her testimony hurt her. The fact that they were able to impeach her in so many ways really created what I think a lot of doubt in the jury's mind as to her credibility. So I don't think it assisted at all with her taking the stand. I think definitely the daughters are always interesting, or children of the defendant are always interesting when they take the stand because the jury sometimes doesn't know what to do. The girl is young, so you would like to believe that she's telling the truth. But also there's that question, I think, that are always in jurors' minds. So I agree. I don't think her testimony helped her at all.
Well, you know, and I want to take a moment just to focus on that young girl. She's 15, turning 16. Her life has been turned upside down, inside out because of her mother. Let's just hope that her stepfather, the man that Laurie married, is able to take care of her and get her the help that she will need and continues to need after everything she's gone through. Big thank you. We brought the verdict in. Paulette Lofton, Laurie Murray, and Philip Dubé. Philip, you got the pink. I had the pink before, but you got to have the red on standby. But thank you all so much. Have a great weekend.